Hi, it's Kevin Sharp. Today on A Page I Love, I'm joined by artist Ethan Young to talk about a page by Arthur Adams from Monkey Man and O'Brien. Ethan, thanks for joining us and welcome to Comic Art Live.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Tell us first how you came to decide on this particular page.
Just given my age, I grew up within that generation of aspiring artists that were fairly heavily influenced by a lot of the image guys, and in addition to those guys, you had Art Adams, John Byrne and Magnolia, and a lot of those slightly elder statesmen who were doing other stuff over at Dark Horse. But Art Adams and his like cartoony style really kind of spoke to me a lot more as a kid. And specifically with Monkey Man and O'Brien, there was a sense of like authorship from him with that series that even as a kid when I didn't realize just the inner workings of the comic industry yet and how jobs were delineated. There was still something about Monkey Man O'Brien that you looked at and you're like, oh, this is Art Adams, this is his voice and everything he kind of wants to say, which is he loves apes and monsters and tall, beautiful women.
So, were you buying Dark Horse Presents off the stands when this was coming out fresh?
Some of these comics were a little outside my price range, either that or like my local shop probably wasn't either didn't get a lot of copies. So I kind of had to get these through the back issues. When I was like collecting in like junior high, I think I was really into Gen 13, and J. Scott Campbell is another artist who was clearly influenced by Art Adams, just like everyone else.
What was it about this particular one that spoke to you?
A big thing is that I love black and white comic books. I love it when a comic book page when the aesthetics has a strong sense of itself. Whether you talk about composition or like just the confidence of the line work. There's and like Art Adams is someone who I think throughout his career, I think one of the big criticisms was like, well, he doesn't draw enough backgrounds, like just because of that era. But when you look at his work and you look at his comics, like he always draws just enough to kind of give you a sense of belonging and making sure that the page feels tangible in that way. And so, like, one of the things I love about this page, as a kid, I just copied it a lot. Just like the little kid with his hair. Like, I think, like, when I saw this page again, when you contacted me and I was looking through all his pages, like, I saw this and I remembered it was like a click in my memory, like, oh, this is where I learned how to highlight hair by this issue. And this issue had like a white cover with Monkey Man and O'Brien jumping down, and that cover, I have so many fingerprints on that cover because I just had it by my table side all the time. Yeah, because there are other like I guess you could say more famous Art Adams pages or pinups like anything from his X Men annuals or even like when he did that short New Fantastic Four run or something like that. But like I said, I think when he's tapped into Monkey Man and O'Brien, I think he's tapping into like his childhood in a way. So I think that really shows through like all that love and all that texture. I like just I love this page so much.
You had the memory of what you were practicing as a kid, but when you look at it now with your fresh eyes, what jumps out at you?
Probably the last word I said, which is the textures. I think, especially nowadays, this is not like a knock on newer artists, but like with like different tools, with coloring and digital tools, learning how to do lots of different types of textures with ink is something that I've seen kind of not totally disappear, but is no longer like a priority for a lot of younger emerging artists. And once again, there's not a knock on them. Like there's certainly a lot of great young artists, but like one of the things I love about Art Adams and especially Monkey Man O'Brien is just like there's just so much texture. Like you can feel like the scales of this turtle, like the hair once again, the fur on Monkey Man himself. When I was a young kid, and when I say young kid, I mean like in my 20s. I had like 3 pages of a portfolio that I showed to Axel Alonso and Joe Quesada. I basically just kind of hijacked this signing of Amazing Spider-Man number 500 just to show them these pages. But the editor basically said to me, like, even though you're good, one of the things you really need to work on is the textures, because the texture of your rocks and your steel and what have you in the background is the same as the texture on your faces. And that really stuck with me because it's a great piece of advice because, quite frankly, like, if you're relying too much on color to separate your foreground, your background, your characters, and everything, the art itself is not really doing its job adequately. And once again, that's we're talking about a master of comic book art here, but like Art Adams, just his work is like a teacher in itself, and like, hey, here is how you stage something without color, and everything pops in. You can see everything and how everything is supposed to flow.
Do you own any Art Adams original art?
Yes, I own a page from Monkey Man and O'Brien #2, the 3 issue miniseries, and I do have a sketch from him in one of his earlier art books. But yeah, it was like an earlier art book from the 2000s, which with like lots of monster stuff. My friend got it for me at a signing, and kind of I think begged him for a Godzilla sketch in there. Those are two pieces that I cherish a lot.
Great. Well, Ethan, thank you so much again for joining us and giving us all an excuse to look at this wonderful page. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Kevin. Anytime I get to talk about Art Adams, I talk a lot.